But they're saying here that this is the population size over time, going all the way back to, they believe way before the Bible says the world was created. But essentially, there's about 1 million people alive across the world for tens of thousands of years, and all of a sudden, somebody invents farming. And that means that extra population can be handled because there's more food. And all of a sudden, the population does that, and we have 7 billion people today. And how come the people with the same genes back here, who were just as smart as people here, they didn't think of planting something in the ground and harvesting it the next year? So this is really magic back here.
Right.
Taking that thought, I applied that to a biblical idea where this is the flood. This is today. And starting from those 6 people, all you have to do is double the number of people every 156 years. And you arrive at 7 billion people after 4,500 years. That's a growth rate of 0.4%. Remember, so some of my models had 8% growth rate. Now, it's ridiculous. Populations don't grow that fast, but they could, theoretically. But that is incredibly slow. And in fact, just about any model that has any growth at all, you can get this many people in those many years. So the human population size actually is a biblical human population size. If evolution was true and we existed for so many thousands of years before that, there should be trillions of people. Not that it's possible. Or someone should have invented farming earlier than that. Or another way to ask it is this. If 1 million people live for about 1 million years, where are the trillions of bodies?
That's a really good question.
They don't exist.
There's no bones down there.
Yeah, there are some ancient bones we found, great, but those are post-flood people. Right. There should be millions upon millions upon millions of cemeteries, old villages, and remains of people, and we don't find them. I believe it's because they didn't exist. Now, looking at the Adam and Eve story, we can make some predictions. First, if we only started with 2 people, all the people today should have a low genetic diversity. If we started with millions of people, you can have a lot of genes floating around in a population of 1 million strong. But if you only started with 2 people, that restricts the diversity today. If the Bible's correct and Adam really is our ancestor, there should only be 1 male ancestor of humanity. Now, the mitochondrial DNA, the mtDNA, that's a little piece of DNA that's only inherited from your mother. All people get it from their mother. Well, that means we can build a family tree of all the females in the world, and there should only be 1 female ancestor of everyone on Earth today. If evolution is true, that shouldn't be true, and none of those have to be true. But also, most genes should come in 2 versions, because Eve was taken from Adam. She probably got Adam's genome, except for the Y chromosome. But Adam only has 2 copies of each gene, so you can only have 2 versions of each gene. Turns out, this is exactly what we have found in modern human genetics.
Huh. Wow.
I mean, what's the chance of the Bible being made up and the biblical story actually mirrors what we actually see in human genetics today?
That's amazing.
Totally amazing.
Absolutely.
We look at Noah's flood. Noah's flood tells all people should be closely related. It tells us there should only be a few mitochondrial DNA lines. That's Shem, Ham, and Japheth's wives.
Right.
And only 1 Y chromosome, because it's only Noah. His 3 sons would have inherited his Y chromosome. Any other Y chromosome diversity before the flood is gone. And we should have evidence of rapid population growth. We saw that a minute ago. Turns out that this is exactly what we find in modern genetics. This is the Noah's flood story also. And in the Tower of Babel account, we have discovered a single dispersal of all people in the relatively recent past, traveling in small people groups into uninhabited territory through the Middle East. They call it the Out of Africa story. But these are all biblical predictions right here.
Single dispersal, all at one time, relatively recent past, traveling in small groups to uninhabited areas throughout the Middle East. That's exactly what happened.
Yes.
And they think it's a little further south in Africa. You think it's a little further north.
The starting point is a little different.
Yeah.
The same pattern is predicted by both sides.
And they're totally agreeing with you on that.
Yes, except they want it here as far as the starting point goes.
Right.
But the Bible says this.
Yes.
Now, interestingly, I'm sure you've had people on your show talking about the biblical Ice Age. During that Ice Age, which was approximately the same time as the Tower of Babel, you could have walked from here to Ireland on dry ground.
Sure.
You could have walked to Tasmania.
Yeah.
And the only deep water part you have to cross is the place between these two little islands, Bali and Lombok, and you can see one island from the other. It's right there. It's not, and you could have walked all the way down to here on dry ground at that one point in history, not any other point in history.
It all adds up.